Well, here's something to mark in your calendars. The story of Giselle. It's the ballet about a young woman who falls in love and is betrayed with a modern twist. So the story now explores the way social media and dating apps affect relationships. And the performance uses motion capture technology and other visual effects to tell the tale. It all takes place September 5th to 7th at the Vancouver Playhouse. And Joshua Beamish is the artistic director and the choreographer. So great to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Why Giselle? What was it about that story that lends itself to this kind of treatment?
Actually, originally, I was living in London and working at the Royal Ballet for a while, and the director specifically said, I'd be curious to see what you would do with narrative ballet set in the present. Look at the ballets in our season, and I'm going to give you a platform to do a short kind of like version of your take on one of them. And so I chose between Romeo and Juliet and Giselle. And to me, it seemed very clear like Giselle had the most applicable narrative to something of the world today. And it is a story that hasn't ever really been told in the present. So to me, it just seemed like the story of deception and almost like catfishing really applied to my experiences in online dating and friendships and relationships.
Well, I'm really intrigued. So how does your character adapt then to modern times, the age of Tinder and dating apps?
Well, I've reimagined it as if there's one central media app called The Village, which references the village in the original ballet, and all the characters have profiles on this one platform. And so very rarely do you see them relating in person. So things that would have been duets in the original ballet are now solos that are basically duets with projected information and interface of what would look like a media profile. So it's quite isolated, and yet they're constantly connecting with one another in theory or relating to one another, but not in the way that you typically would in ballet.
Wow, and where does motion capture technology come into it all?
The main ballerina, Katherine Herlin from American Ballet Theatre, she flew out here last year, and we motion captured her and have animated her into the Willies. So the Willies are the evil spirits who haunt the men in Act 2 of the ballet.
Well, the Willies give you the Willies?
The Willies give you the Willies,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And so we've actually turned them into holograms. And Giselle herself becomes effectively a motion captured hologram of the ballerina. So that the idea that the ghosts are projections of the men's guilt for what they did to Giselle. And as such, they're haunted by these spirits that are actually digital animation.
And how is she navigating this world of social media?
I view Giselle, in the original ballet, she's naive, she's not very experienced, she is very trusting, and I view her as a young girl who doesn't have a lot of friends, doesn't have a lot of followers. She's trying to do what she can to fit in and be popular and be liked, and specifically to gain attention from one particular guy. And so she's really navigating how she has to change herself or mature her behavior or what she's ready for in life in order to appeal to the attention of young men. And I think that's really topical. So it seems like a good vehicle to talk about something that's a greater social issue.
Well, what about for you? It sounds like this is quite a leap that you're taking, using the technology in something that we sort of perceive as something more classic. What kinds of challenges has that presented for you?
Well, I've been actually working on this for 4 years, so it's been a challenge to get the resources together to work in this capacity. I had never worked with projection technology in this way, and the show really kind of like lives and dies on the technology. That's the setting and it's the world, and I've really had to choreograph the projections with the dance so that one doesn't overwhelm the other. It's like a duet between ballet and technology in effect. But I think if ballet is going to continue to survive and appeal to audiences in the future, I think it's important for us to be able to see the world that we live in the work that we're watching.
Well, let's go down that path then. Do you think this is the future of ballet, or in terms of grabbing a new audience, perhaps?
I think in terms of grabbing a new audience, for sure. I hope that it's not the exclusive future. I love ballet as it is. I love contemporary ballet as it is. I think movement is strong enough to speak on its own. But I also feel like the classical ballet already exists, and if I'm going to it brilliantly. And if I'm going to retell this story, I think the room for retelling it is in the technology, is in really like planting it firmly in our present and challenging it with the associations that we make to how we live our lives online.
And what do you anticipate, the audience response will be to something like this? What do you hope they take away?
I hope that people think it's funny. I hope that people are confronted by how disconnected they are from the people that they care about, maybe. I hope that people are confronted by basically our reality, which is the absence of connection in ultimate connection that is happening constantly all day long. I think that's kind of what happens to Giselle's demise, is the more connected she becomes to people, the worse off she ends up getting. And so her connections are all online. She doesn't actually have real, tangible, real-life connections. And I think a lot of young people suffer from that right now.
Yeah, it is a popular theme for sure. Well, Joshua, congratulations. I look forward to seeing the culmination of your 4 years of effort that you put into this production. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.